Good afternoon. I'm here today to talk to you guys about executive functioning, which is an area of common deficits for people with autism, particularly Asperger's syndrome, and how to help students who have deficits in this area. Let me start by giving you a little background information. Now, executive functioning is the ability to plan, organize, and manage complex tasks in your head. It allows us to develop and apply problem-solving skills as circumstances call for them. For example, we need executive functioning skills to deal with the constant barrage of data points we encounter throughout every day. Things like which email to answer first, or even where you left your keys. They tell us where, when, and how to start, or even delay reactions to our environment, and to shift or sustain attention in order to prioritize our reactions. For most of us, these skills are pretty simple to pick up, even though we've never actually had anyone teach them to us. We develop them naturally as we reach adolescence. Now, weak executive function can affect people of any degree of capacity or capability, but it's significantly more common in children with Asperger's syndrome. Unfortunately, it's frequently undiagnosed or misdiagnosed, usually as ADHD, especially in early childhood. Once children reach middle or high school, however, organizational problems often become very apparent, and the student begins to struggle tremendously. For example, they may have difficulty keeping track of possessions like books, notebooks, teachers' notes, calculators, cell phones, etc. They might lose track of time and schedule, and not know where to go next or what class they have. They may start homework but not complete it, or might be unable to begin, since they're not sure where they should start. They may have tremendous difficulty with working memory, or the ability to hold information in your mind while processing it and manipulating it. They might struggle to organize or relate things that they've learned in a previous class to whatever they're currently learning. They might also have difficulty transitioning, going from one class to the next, one activity to the next, getting dressed, getting up in the morning, etc. So, what does this mean for kids? Well, Michelle Garcia Winner notes that executive functioning is, quote, critical to playing, organizing, and carrying out complex human behavior over long periods of time. Many children with Asperger's syndrome have increased difficulties in everyday life due to low executive functioning. They may have a slower processing speed, which means it might take them 20 to 30 seconds to respond to a question that you've asked them. They might get confused when having to choose from multiple options or mental overload. They might have difficulty with reciprocal behavior or not understanding why they should respond to an "I love you," for instance. I mean, they told you they loved you yesterday, why should they tell you again today? They might have difficulty taking a skill they learned in one environment and translating it to another different environment. And finally, their black and white thinking might limit their ability to see subtlety or degree. Most importantly, all of these factors combine to increase their anxiety when dealing with change. Without any kind of closure, they often cannot achieve a peace of mind, which might result in an overload, meltdown, or even total shutdown. So, what could we do? Well, people with executive functioning disorder are often misperceived as lazy, unmotivated, stubborn, or uncooperative. Usually, nothing could be further from the truth. They're working as hard as they can to keep pace with the demands in their lives. According to Ms. Garcia Winner, one of the biggest complaints about children with executive functioning disorder is, well, they did it yesterday, why can't they do it today? For these kids, however, once isn't enough. They need repeated practice. An important method of helping these kids is by teaching processing skills. Garcia Winner believes that this can be done most effectively through a three-step process. First, segmentation. Teaching rather than telling students how to break down a task into smaller, more manageable parts. 2, mental picturing. Teaching a student how to think through a situation in order to envision how a goal might be accomplished. And 3, using visuals rather than verbal language. Now, these 3 steps are easily translated to a school situation. As teachers, we often say something at the beginning of class like, take out your materials and get ready for English. Now, Garcia Winner suggests that a better way to help students with executive functioning disorders is say something like, it's time for English. What do you need? This teaches the student to become more self-directed by encouraging the development of self-talk. The student has to think, what do I need in English class? What did we do yesterday? What did I need yesterday? And the development of this kind of self-monitoring is essential to effective independent thinking and functioning in the future. Now, Tony Attwood uses a tool he calls strategy reflection cards. Now, these are index cards that students use to focus on the steps necessary to accomplish important tasks. These cards are created by answering leading questions like, do you remember a time when you had trouble with a task like this? What did you do in order to work through the task then? Were you successful? Students then write out what works best for them on the cards. When they undertake this task in the future, like studying for a test for instance, they check off the strategies that they've used successfully in the past. Instead of general checklists that work for many more common students, Attwood notes that students with executive functioning disorder need to make personalized checklists that work for them. Now, deficits in executive functioning skills render daily life, in school and out, confusing, exhausting, and at times humiliating. The common result of any good technique used to help kids develop executive functioning skills is the experience of control, success, and mastery. They need to feel comfortable with themselves. Practical, simple, and inexpensive exercises, such as those I mentioned earlier, help our students practice and learn these necessary skills. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation.